Ladies and gentlemen, sisters and brothers, let me tell you something about love. Not the kind that flutters in and out like the wind on a restless night. Not the kind that burns bright but fades before dawn. No, I speak of the love that shapes us, the love that cradles us before we can even speak its name. I speak of the first love, the quiet love, the love that teaches us who we are before we ever know the power of our own names. Oh yes, love is not just poetry in motion or songs whispered in the dark. Love is science. Love is roots and branches, neurons and heartbeats, hands that hold and voices that soothe. It is attachment, the first glance of a mother into her baby's wide eyes, the steady arms of a father lifting a child to the sky, the gentle touch of a grandmother, the firm guidance of a teacher, the unwavering presence of a friend. Let me tell you something, love is not always loud, but it is always there. It molds us, shapes us, stitches us together in ways we cannot see, but we can feel. If we were lucky, we were held, we were cherished, we were taught that the world was safe. And if we were not, if we knew only cold distance, if love was a whisper we never quite caught, then we have spent our lives searching for what should have been ours from the start. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something about love. Love is not something we learn from books, not something we pick up like a hobby, not something that knocks on our door one day and introduces itself. No, love is our first language. It is the whisper in the womb, the rhythm of a mother's heartbeat, the gentle hands that lift us from our first cry into the arms of warmth and safety. Before we know our own name, before we open our eyes wide enough to see the world, we feel love. Love is not just a feeling, it is the fabric of our beginning. The first glance between a mother and child is not just a moment, it is a promise. It is the wordless vow that says, I am here and you are safe. That connection, that attachment, is what tells the child whether the world is something to be feared or something to be explored. And from that moment on, love, or the absence of it, shapes the way we walk, the way we trust, the way we let people in, and the way we carry ourselves through this unpredictable life. A child held close learns that arms are meant for comfort, that hands are meant for kindness. A child who is spoken to softly, who is soothed in moments of fear, begins to understand that love is steady, that care does not disappear when the night falls. That child walks into the world knowing that no matter how fierce the storm, there will always be shelter. But what of the child who cries into an empty room? The child whose outstretched hands find only silence? The child who learns too soon that love is a visitor, sometimes here, sometimes gone, sometimes warm, sometimes cold. That child learns that love is unpredictable, that safety is an illusion, that trust is a gamble. And so they grow with a heart that hesitates, a heart that wonders, will I be loved today or will love walk away? We do not choose the love we are first given. We do not ask to be held. We do not demand to be cherished. We simply receive what is there. But what we receive in those first years teaches us how to give, how to take, how to believe in love or how to run from it. And that lesson, whether gentle or harsh, lingers in the way we love for the rest of our lives. But let me tell you this, love is a lesson that never stops teaching. Yes, we are shaped by those early years, molded by the hands that first held us, but we are not trapped there. We are not bound forever by the echoes of the past, because love is not just something given. It is something learned. It is something built. It is something we can rewrite, reshape, reclaim. If love was missing, if love was distant, if love was a song we never quite learned to sing, it does not mean we cannot learn its melody now. It does not mean we cannot offer the love we never received. It does not mean we are destined to repeat what was once broken. Love is not just memory, it is movement. It is a choice, a practice, a language that can be relearned at any age, in any moment, with any heart willing to open again. We are all born into love, but not all of us are taught its fullness. Yet here we stand, grown from children into adults, holding in our hands the power to give the love we needed, to heal through the love we choose to share. We may have entered this world with hands reaching for love, but we do not have to leave this world with empty hands. We can learn, we can love, we can become the safe place we once searched for. Because love is our first language, but it is never too late to become fluent in it. Let me tell you something about love. It does not vanish when we outgrow childhood. It does not stay locked in the past, tucked away in a crib or a lullaby. No, love follows us, lingers in our bones, shapes the way we walk into the world. It is the silent architect of our choices, the quiet whisper behind our fears, the steady or unsteady rhythm of our hearts. Attachment is not just something we experience as children. It is the blueprint for the way we love, the way we trust, the way we let people hold us, or the way we push them away. A child who is loved well, who is held with steady arms, who learns that love does not waver with the wind, steps into the world with a kind of confidence that cannot be bought, borrowed, or faked. That child grows into an adult who believes in connection, who sees love as something reliable, not something fragile. That child does not run from closeness. They do not flinch at the thought of vulnerability. They know deep in their soul that love is not a risk, it is a right. And because they know this, they do not settle for love that is half-hearted. They do not beg for affection that is inconsistent. They walk with the certainty that love, when true, is a home and not a battlefield. But what of the child who learns that love is conditional? The child who reaches out and is sometimes met with warmth, sometimes with distance? What of the child who learns that love is something to be earned, something that comes and goes, something that can be taken away without warning? That child grows up not with certainty, but with hesitation. They love with one foot out the door, always watching, always waiting, always fearing that what is given today may be gone tomorrow. They crave love, but they do not trust it. They yearn for closeness, yet they brace themselves for loss. They hold on too tightly or push away too soon, caught between wanting and fearing the very thing that should have felt safe from the start. And then there are the ones who learned that love was not safe at all. The ones who grew up in the shadows of neglect, in the cold air of distance, in the silence of unanswered cries. These are the ones who did not just learn to question love, they learned to live without expecting it at all. They build walls not out of malice, but out of necessity. They do not seek love, because love was never a comfort to them. It was an ache, a hunger, a longing that went unanswered for far too long. And so they learned to stand alone, to depend on no one, to survive without the thing their heart still secretly hopes for. This is the power of attachment. It does not end when childhood ends. It stretches into our friendships, our relationships, our marriages, our parenting. It determines whether we trust or whether we doubt, whether we embrace or whether we guard ourselves. It is the foundation upon which all love is built, And when that foundation is cracked, we feel it in every relationship we try to build on top of it. But let me tell you this, attachment is not destiny. It is a beginning, not an ending. Yes, we are shaped by the love we first received, but we are not prisoners of the past. We are not doomed to repeat the patterns we were taught. We are not forever bound to the lessons we learned in our earliest years. Because love, my friends, is not just something we inherit, it is something we create. We can unlearn fear. We can rewrite the story. We can step beyond the wounds of yesterday and choose a new way to love, a new way to trust, a new way to let ourselves be seen. No matter how we were loved, no matter how we were held or left alone, we have the power to build something different, something stronger, something that does not tremble under the weight of old pain. Because attachment shapes us, but it does not have to define us. And when we choose love, real, steady, fearless love, we do not just heal ourselves, we heal generations. Let me tell you something about love. It is not just a feeling, not just something that happens in quiet moments or grand gestures. Love is learned, love is practiced, love is shaped by what we were given. But it does not have to be limited by what we lacked. We carry the weight of our past in the way we reach for others, in the way we pull back, in the way we trust, or the way we hesitate. But here's the truth. Healing begins with understanding. We cannot heal what we do not see. We cannot change what we do not name. And so if love has felt heavy, if love has felt distant, if love has been a source of confusion rather than comfort, we must begin by looking back, not to stay there, not to drown in old wounds, but to understand how they shaped the way we love today. A child who was held close, who was met with kindness, who was taught that love was steady, grows into an adult who loves with open hands, without fear, without doubt. But a child who learned that love was uncertain, that love could vanish without warning, that love was something to chase but never fully catch. Oh, that child grows into an adult who carries love carefully, fearfully, always waiting for the moment it slips away. And then there are the ones who learn to survive without love at all, the ones who locked their hearts away because love was a stranger, not a safe place. But let me tell you something. No matter what we learn, no matter what we inherited, no matter what stories were written into us before we even understood their meaning, we are not bound to them forever. Because the beautiful, undeniable truth is this. Love can be relearned. Healing begins the moment we stop running from our own reflection. The moment we stop saying, "This is just who I am," and start asking, "Where did I learn to be this way?" Healing begins when we realize that our patterns are not our personality, our wounds are not our identity, our fears are not our fate. If we have learned to push love away, we can learn to let it in. If we have learned to cling too tightly, to fear its loss before it even arrives, we can learn to trust its presence. If we have learned to expect the worst, to wait for rejection, to assume that love will always end in pain, we can learn to believe in something better. But first we must see ourselves clearly. We must sit with the truth, no matter how uncomfortable, no matter how heavy it feels in our hands. Because understanding is not weakness, it is power. It is the first step, the necessary step, the only way forward. We cannot change the past, but we can change the way it lives inside us. We can take the lessons we were taught and decide with courage, with intention, with love, whether they still serve us. And if they do not, we can let them go. This is how healing happens. Not in a single moment, not in one grand revelation, but in small, steady choices. Choosing to trust when trust feels risky, choosing to stay when staying feels unfamiliar, choosing to believe that love, real love, does not have to hurt, does not have to leave, does not have to be something we fear, because we are not meant to live our lives locked behind old stories. We are not meant to carry the weight of love gone wrong forever. We are meant to heal. We are meant to grow. We are meant to love in ways that feel like freedom, not like fear. And it all begins with understanding. Understanding that we are not broken, that we are not beyond repair, that we are not too far gone to learn a new way. Because love is not just something that happens to us. It is something we build, something we choose, something we create with every act of tenderness, every moment of trust, every time we open our hearts and say, I am ready to love and I am ready to be loved. Love is not just a feeling, not just butterflies in the belly, not just words whispered in the dark. Love is foundation. It is the ground beneath our feet, the sky above our heads, the walls that protect us when the storm rages. Love, when given freely, steadily, without fear, builds something strong inside of us, something unshakable, something whole. A child who knows love, who has felt it in steady hands and heard it in gentle voices, does not just carry love in their heart, they carry it in their bones. It becomes the way they move through the world, the way they trust, the way they hold themselves upright, unafraid. A child who is held when they cry, who is soothed when they fear, who is taught that their needs are not burdens, but truths that deserve to be answered. Oh, that child learns something powerful. They learn that the world is not against them, that love is not a gamble, that their presence is not too much. They grow into adults who stand tall, who do not shrink themselves to be loved, who do not fear that love will vanish the moment they become too real, too raw, too human. They know without hesitation that love is not a prize to be earned, but a birthright. But love, when uncertain, when fleeting, when handed out in pieces instead of in fullness, does not just hurt, it reshapes. A child who learns that love comes with conditions, that love is something to be won, something to be proven, something that disappears the moment they fall short, does not grow with ease. No, they grow with questions. They grow with the quiet ache of am I enough? They grow with the fear that love, once given, will one day be taken away. And that fear, that fear does not stay small. It spreads, it lingers, it follows them into friendships, into romance, into every place where love could exist but never quite feels safe. And then there are the ones who were never held at all, the ones who learned too soon that the world is cold, that cries go unanswered, that hands are not always gentle. These are the ones who build walls instead of bridges, not because they do not want love, but because love has never been a place they could rest. They learn that survival means standing alone, that trust is a risk they cannot afford, that needing someone is a danger rather than a comfort. And so they carry love, not as something they embrace, but as something they watch from a distance, longing, yet never stepping too close. But let me tell you something. Love is not just memory. It is not just what we were given or what we lacked. Love is something we can choose to build, no matter the cracks in the foundation, no matter the missing pieces, no matter the ghosts of what should have been. Because love is not just emotion, it is the structure that holds us up. And no matter how unsteady it once was, we can rebuild it. We can learn to trust even if trust once failed us. We can learn to stay even if love once left. We can learn to receive even if we have spent our lives giving and giving, hoping someone might see us, hold us, choose us. Because love is not just given, it is created. It is something we plan, something we tend to, something we pour into the people around us, into ourselves, into the spaces where love was once absent. And when we do that, when we choose love, when we build it on something stronger than fear, stronger than doubt, stronger than the past, we do not just heal ourselves, we heal the generations that come after us. We rewrite the story. We become the safe place we once searched for. We become the proof that love, when true, when steady, when whole, does not break us, it builds us. From the moment we take our first breath, we are reaching for warmth, for closeness, for the presence of another heartbeat beside our own. It is not weakness, it is not desperation, it is biology, it is truth. We are wired for connection. Love is not just something we want, it is something we need. As necessary as air, as vital as water. The very core of who we are, the way our brains are built, the way our hearts beat, the way our bodies calm when held. Every part of us was designed for love. A baby does not survive on milk alone. A child does not grow on food and shelter alone. No, it is love, it is presence. It is the steady rhythm of a voice that says, I see you, I hear you, I am here, that allows a soul to truly thrive. When a child is held, their heartbeat slows. When a child is comforted, their mind settles. When a child is spoken to, touched with kindness, met with patience, their brain forms pathways that say, the world is safe. Love is safe. I am safe. And that belief, that belief will shape the way they move through the world for the rest of their life. But what happens when love is distant? What happens when a child cries and no one comes? When love is given in pieces, when affection is unpredictable, when closeness feels like a privilege rather than a right, the body learns, the brain adapts. Instead of safety, there is tension. Instead of ease, there is fear. The body stays on alert, waiting, bracing, never fully at rest. And that child grows into an adult who carries that same unease into every relationship, into every touch, into every moment where closeness could exist but never quite feels certain. And then there are the ones who learn that love was something to fear, the ones whose small hands reached for comfort and found only coldness, the ones who learned not through words but through silence, through distance, through absence, that they were on their own, that love was not steady, that people could not be trusted, and so they learned to survive without it. They built walls instead of bridges, chose distance instead of dependence, told themselves that needing nothing was safer than risking everything. But the body remembers, the heart remembers, because no matter how strong we become in our solitude, no matter how well we convince ourselves that we do not need, that we do not crave, that we do not long for love, the truth is undeniable. We were never meant to do this life alone. We are wired for connection. It is why loneliness feels like hunger. It is why isolation can break a spirit faster than any storm. It is why a kind word, a steady hand, a presence that does not waver can heal wounds we did not even know we carried, because love is not luxury. Love is not weakness. Love is survival. But here is the beauty of it. Love is not just something we receive, it is something we give. It is something we create. If love was missing, if love was distant, if love was once a stranger rather than a home, that does not mean we are lost. That does not mean we are beyond love's reach. Because the truth, the deep, unwavering, undeniable truth, is that love is always within us. No matter how far we have strayed, no matter how long we have been without it, love waits for us to choose it again. It waits in the spaces where we let ourselves be seen. It waits in the moments when we dare to trust, even when trust feels impossible. It waits in the way we show up for others, in the way we stay, in the way we soften, in the way we let love in, even when every part of us wants to run. Because connection is not just something that happens to us, it is something we fight for, something we build, something we return to, no matter how many times the world has told us to stand alone. Because love is not a weakness, it is not a mistake, it is not something we outgrow. Love is the beginning, the middle, the foundation of it all. And no matter where we have been, no matter what we have endured, we can always, always come home to it. Love teaches us how to exist in this world. It is the first language we learn, the first lesson we carry, the first truth we come to understand, not in words, but in presence, in touch, in the spaces between what is said and what is shown. Love tells us whether the world is safe or uncertain, whether we are cherished or tolerated, whether we belong or whether we must fight to earn our place. And that lesson, oh, that lesson, it does not fade when childhood fades, it stays. It lingers in our breath, in our choices, in the way we give love and the way we receive it. A child who grows in love, steady love, love that does not flinch or waver, carries a gift that cannot be stolen. They do not move through the world with hesitation. They do not question whether they are enough. They do not brace for loss before love has even begun. No, they step forward with the quiet certainty that they are loved, that they are worthy, that they do not have to shrink themselves or stretch themselves thin to be held, to be wanted, to be chosen. They do not fear love because love was never something they had to fear. But not every child is given that certainty. Some learn that love is unpredictable, that one moment it is warm and the next it is distant, that one moment they are held close and the next they are left reaching, searching, longing for something that does not always come. And so they grow, but they grow with questions. They grow with hesitation. They grow with love tangled in doubt, because how can they trust something that was never steady? How can they believe in closeness when closeness once meant uncertainty? And then there are the ones who were never met with love at all, the ones who learned too early that the world is cold, that love is a thing that exists for others, but not for them. They do not just question love, they expect its absence. They do not just hesitate to trust, they build their lives around the belief that trust is a risk they cannot afford. And so they survive not by reaching for love, but by avoiding it, by convincing themselves that they do not need it, that they are stronger without it, that loneliness is safer than longing. But love is not just a lesson we inherit, it is a lesson we can relearn. It is a language we can teach ourselves again, even if the words once felt foreign, even if love once felt out of reach, because love is not just something that happens to us, it is something we create. And the love we build today has the power to rewrite the love we were given yesterday. If love was uncertain, we can choose to make it steady. If love was distant, we can choose to make it present. If love was absent, we can choose to bring it back, not just for ourselves, but for those who come after us. Because the love we give does not just shape us, it shapes those who receive it. It shapes our children, our partners, it builds bridges where there were once walls. It mends what was once broken. It turns fear into trust, doubt into belief, longing into something whole. And this is why love is not just emotion, it is responsibility, it is power, it is the force that turns a history of hurt into a future of healing. Because love, true love, real love, steady love, does not just echo through one life. It echoes through generations. It reaches beyond us. It stretches into the lives of those we may never even meet, those who will grow in the presence of the love we chose to give, those who will never have to question love the way we once did, because we chose to make love something certain, something unwavering, something whole. And that choice, it is always ours to make. No matter what we were given, no matter what was missing, no matter what we once believed, love is always something we can choose. And when we choose love, when we choose to make it steady, to make it known, to make it something safe and not something feared, we do not just heal ourselves, we change everything. Love is not just a story we inherit, it is a story we write. With every touch, every word, every moment of presence or absence, we are shaping the love that lives within us and the love that lingers beyond us. And if the past has taught us that love is something uncertain, something fleeting, something that must be chased but never fully held, then we must become the ones who change this story. Because love is not just a memory, it is a choice, a practice, a force that can be rebuilt, remade, reimagined. A child who is held, who is seen, who is taught that love does not leave, grows into an adult who carries that certainty like armor. They do not question whether they are worthy. They do not fear that love will vanish the moment they need it most. But for those of us who are given something less, something inconsistent, something distant, something we had to earn, it is easy to believe that love is fragile, that love is temporary, that love is something we must fight for, rather than something we deserve. And yet, here we stand with hands that can still reach, with hearts that can still open, with voices that can still say, I will not carry this wound forward. I will not let the past define the way I love today. Because if we have learned anything, it is this. Love is not something we find, love is something we build. We build love in the way we show up, not just when it is easy, but when it is hard. We build love in the way we listen, not just to respond, but to understand. We build love in the way we choose to stay, not because we have to, but because we want to. Because love is not just presence, but commitment, a promise we make again and again. And we do this not just for ourselves, but for those who come after us. Because the love we give today does not end with us. It ripples outward, shaping the hearts of those we hold close, teaching them what love should feel like, not as something that must be earned, but as something that simply is. Because love at its best is not a test, it is not a struggle, it is not a thing that vanishes in the face of imperfection. Love at its best is steady, it is strong, it does not run at the first sign of fear. And when we choose to love in this way, when we choose to break the cycles of distance, of fear, of uncertainty, we are not just healing ourselves, we are healing generations. We are rewriting the lessons we were taught. We are becoming the safety that we once longed for. We are proving with every act of kindness, every moment of patience, every choice to love fully and freely, that love is not meant to be painful, it is meant to be home. And so we stand at a choice. We can carry the weight of love gone wrong, Let it shape us into people who fear love, who run from love, who keep love at a distance because it has never felt safe. Or we can decide right here, right now, that love will be different, that we will be different, that we will love in a way that heals rather than harms, in a way that builds rather than breaks, in a way that does not leave the people we love questioning whether they are enough, but knowing without hesitation that they are, because love, true love, lasting love, healing love, is not a thing that happens to us. It is a thing we create, and when we choose to create it, when we choose to make it steady, when we choose to give it freely, we do not just change our own lives, we change everything. Love is the thread that weaves us together, the foundation that holds us steady, the force that shapes the way we see ourselves and the world around us. It is not just a feeling, it is the way we are built, the way we survive, the way we heal. And though love may have once been distant, though it may have come with conditions or disappeared when we needed it most, we are not bound to the love we were given. We are free to choose love anew. We can make love steady where it was once uncertain. We can make love present where it was once absent. We can make love a place of safety, not a source of fear. And when we do, when we choose to build love that is strong, that is kind, that does not waver, we do not just heal ourselves, we heal those who come after us. Because love is not just a lesson we inherit, it is a lesson we teach. And when we choose to love with open hands, with steady hearts, with the certainty that love is not a thing to be earned but a gift to be given, we do not just rewrite our own story, we rewrite the story of generations to come. May you choose love, may you build it with care, may you give it freely, without fear, without doubt, without hesitation. And may you know without question that you are worthy of the love you seek. Good luck on your journey, and thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, there will always be a reason to quit, a justification for giving up, an explanation for why something didn't go as planned. But let me tell you this, excuses don't build dreams. They don't write books, heal hearts, start businesses, or change the world. Action does. The road to success, however you define it, is never smooth. You will stumble, you will face rejection, you will have days when you feel the world is against you. But excuses will never make the burden lighter, and they will never push you forward. Instead of saying, I couldn't because, ask yourself, how can I despite? Instead of dwelling on what went wrong, focus on what you can do right. Excuses may bring temporary comfort, but they steal long-term progress. It takes courage to stand tall and own your circumstances, to say, yes, I made that mistake, but I will do better. To admit, yes, life was unfair, but I will rise anyway. Strength is found in responsibility, not in blame. There is power in taking responsibility for your life. Every decision you make, every step you take, and every word you speak shapes your journey. When you own your actions, you take control of your destiny. But when you make excuses, you hand that control over to circumstances, to other people, and to fear. It is easy to say, I failed because of someone else. It is easy to blame the world, the system, or even bad luck. But here's the truth. While you may not be able to control everything that happens to you, you always have control over how you respond, and that response is what defines your character. Owning your actions means admitting when you are wrong without waiting for someone to call you out. It means showing up even when you don't feel like it. It means keeping your promises to yourself and to others, because your word is a reflection of your integrity. It also means recognizing that the past does not have to define your future. If you have made mistakes, learn from them. If you have taken a wrong turn, find your way back. Excuses will only keep you stuck in the same place, repeating the same patterns. But accountability will set you free. The most successful people in life, whether in business, in relationships, or in personal growth, are not those who never make mistakes. They are those who acknowledge their mistakes, learn from them, and keep pushing forward. So no more waiting for the perfect moment. No more blaming others. No more saying, I would have, but own your failures, own your successes. When you do that, you take back your power. And with that power, you can shape a future that no excuse could ever build. Life will test you, that is a certainty. No one walks through this world without facing obstacles, setbacks, and hardships. But the question is not whether challenges will come. The question is how you will respond when they do. Will you see them as barriers, or will you see them as stepping stones? Too often people let difficulties define them. They say, I can't do this because it's too hard, or I wasn't given the same opportunities as others. But challenges are not meant to break you. They are meant to shape you. They are the fire that forges strength, the pressure that creates resilience, the lessons that teach wisdom. Think of the strongest people you know. They did not become strong because life was easy. They became strong because they faced struggles head on and refused to back down. Every great leader, every innovator, every success story you admire has one thing in common. They embraced their challenges instead of running from them. Difficult moments will come in many forms. Financial struggles, personal losses, failures, rejection. You will hear no when you desperately want a yes. You will make mistakes that feel irreversible. You will have days when it seems like nothing is going your way. And in those moments, you have a choice. Make an excuse or make a way forward. Excuses keep you in a cycle of inaction, convincing you that it's okay to quit because things are hard. But growth happens when you push through discomfort, when you refuse to give up simply because the road isn't smooth. Challenges are not the enemy. They are opportunities. They are the universe's way of asking, how bad do you want it? So when life gets tough, don't shrink away. Don't allow fear or frustration to hold you back. Step forward. Face the challenge with courage. Find the lesson in the struggle. And remember, every difficulty you overcome becomes proof of your strength, a testament to your resilience, and a chapter in your success story. Mistakes are not the end of the road. They are part of the journey. Every single person, no matter how wise, successful, or experienced, has made mistakes. It is not the mistake itself that defines you. It is what you choose to do afterward. Too often, people let their mistakes discourage them. They dwell on failure, replaying it in their minds like a song stuck on repeat. They let embarrassment, guilt, or disappointment hold them back. But what if instead of seeing mistakes as failures, you saw them as lessons? What if you understood that every misstep is an opportunity to grow? Think about a child learning to walk. They stumble, they fall, they get back up, again and again. Never once do they say, I guess I'm just not meant to walk. No. They keep trying, adjusting, learning, until one day they take that first step, then another, then another. Before long, they are running. Now, imagine if we treated all our mistakes that way, instead of making excuses, blaming others, blaming bad luck, or blaming circumstances. We could step back and ask, what can I learn from this? That is how true progress happens. The most successful people in the world have failed countless times. Some have lost businesses, lost money, lost opportunities. Some have been rejected, underestimated, or misunderstood. But they learned. They adjusted. They kept going. If they had let their mistakes define them, they never would have made history. Mistakes can either be stepping stones or roadblocks. The choice is yours. If you let them paralyze you, you will stay stuck. But if you use them to gain wisdom, strength, and insight, you will move forward with more knowledge and confidence than before. So, the next time you make a mistake, don't pretend it didn't happen. Acknowledge it, learn from it, use it to become better, because the most valuable lessons in life don't come from easy victories. They come from the moments when you fall and decide to rise again. Excuses and problems are easy to find. Solutions require effort, creativity, and determination. But here's the truth. Nothing in life changes until you stop focusing on the problem and start looking for a way forward. Too many people get stuck in a cycle of complaining. They spend their time talking about what went wrong, why things aren't fair, and how circumstances are against them. But focusing on the problem without searching for a solution is like sitting in a sinking boat and complaining about the water instead of grabbing a bucket to start bailing. The reality is, life is full of challenges. There will always be difficulties, whether in your personal life, career, relationships, or goals. But instead of saying, this is too hard, or I don't know what to do, shift your mindset. Ask yourself, what can I do right now to make this better? Some problems will have clear answers, and others will take time to solve. But no matter the situation, focusing on solutions means taking responsibility for what is in your control. Even if you can't change everything, you can change something. And sometimes that one small change is enough to set you on a new path. Think about the great innovators and leaders of the world. They didn't waste time making excuses. They didn't sit back and say, this is impossible. Instead, they asked, how can we fix this? And because of that mindset, they discovered new ideas, built new technologies, and made history. Focusing on solutions doesn't mean ignoring difficulties or pretending problems don't exist. It means acknowledging them but refusing to let them define you. It means channeling your energy into action instead of self-pity. So, the next time you face a challenge, take a deep breath and ask yourself, what is one step I can take toward a solution? Maybe it's asking for help. Maybe it's learning a new skill. Maybe it's changing your approach. But no matter what, don't waste time making excuses, because problems don't fix themselves. Solutions come from those who are willing to find them. When faced with failure, criticism, or hardship, many people instinctively build walls. They shield themselves with excuses, avoid accountability, and convince themselves that they are victims of circumstance. But true strength is not found in avoiding responsibility. It is found in embracing it. Excuses may protect your pride, but they do not build your character. Character is built through honesty, resilience, and self-reflection. It requires the courage to admit when you are wrong, to recognize your weaknesses, and to commit to becoming better. But when people build defenses instead, they close themselves off from growth. They tell themselves, it wasn't my fault, or I couldn't do anything about it, instead of asking, what can I do differently next time? Defensiveness often comes from fear, fear of failure, fear of judgment. But here's something important to understand. Growth does not happen inside your comfort zone. If you spend all your time trying to protect yourself from discomfort, you will never develop the strength needed to overcome life's biggest challenges. Think about the people you admire, the ones with integrity, wisdom, and strength. They didn't become that way by avoiding difficulties. They faced hardships, owned their mistakes, and used every experience to build themselves into something greater. They didn't hide behind excuses. They stood in their truth, even when it was difficult. Building character means choosing self-awareness over self-defense. It means listening when someone gives you constructive criticism instead of immediately dismissing it. It means admitting when you have failed instead of shifting the blame onto someone else. And it means learning from every experience, good or bad, to become a stronger, wiser, and more capable person. So the next time you're tempted to make an excuse, ask yourself, am I protecting my ego or am I building my character? Because excuses may give you temporary relief, but only accountability will give you lasting strength. And in the end, the person who takes responsibility for their actions, the one who learns, grows, and evolves, is the one who will truly succeed. Life does not stop for anyone. Time keeps moving, the world keeps changing, and whether you choose to grow or remain stagnant is entirely up to you. Challenges, failures, and disappointments will come, but the only way to truly fail is to stop trying. No matter what happens, no matter how difficult things may seem, keep moving forward. It is easy to get stuck in the past, dwelling on mistakes, heartbreaks, or missed opportunities. Regret can weigh heavily on the soul, making you feel as if there's no point in continuing. But the past is unchangeable, and every moment spent looking back is a moment stolen from your future. The only direction you can go is forward. There will be times when progress feels slow, when you take one step forward and 2 steps back. In those moments, frustration will tempt you to quit. But moving forward does not mean you must always take giant leaps. Sometimes progress is a slow crawl. Sometimes it's simply waking up and deciding to try again. What matters is that you refuse to stop. Think of the strongest people you know. They did not reach their success, their wisdom, or their happiness by giving up when things got tough. They kept pushing, even when they felt like they had nothing left to give. That pain is temporary. That struggle is a part of the journey. Moving forward means letting go of excuses. It means silencing the voice in your head that tells you, I can't, and replacing it with, I will. It means understanding that failure is not the end, but a lesson, a redirection towards something greater. No matter where you are in life, no matter what obstacles stand in your way, remember this. You are stronger than your struggles. You are more capable than your doubts allow you to believe. And as long as you continue to take even the smallest steps forward, you are winning. So don't stop. Don't let fear, failure, or frustration hold you back. Keep moving forward, because the only way to reach your dreams is to keep going no matter what. Excuses may feel like a shield, a way to protect yourself from discomfort, failure, or responsibility, but in reality, they are chains that hold you back from growth and success. The truth is, life will challenge you. You will face obstacles, make mistakes, and have moments of doubt. But your strength is not measured by how well you explain your setbacks. It is measured by how you rise from them. Own your actions. Take responsibility for your choices and understand that every decision shapes your future. Embrace challenges instead of avoiding them, because struggles are not meant to stop you, they are meant to build you. Learn from mistakes, not by making excuses, but by using them as lessons to grow stronger and wiser. Focus on solutions, because complaining and blaming will never change your situation, only action will. Build character, not defenses. True strength comes from self-awareness and accountability, not from hiding behind justifications. And above all, keep moving forward. No matter how slow, no matter how difficult, progress is always better than standing still. You have the power to control your future, but only if you refuse to be held back by excuses. So stand up, take responsibility, and move forward with courage. Because the only thing standing between you and your greatest potential is the decision to take action. No more excuses, just results. My dear friends, life is a dance, a rhythm, a song waiting to be sung. But what is a song without harmony? What is a dance without movement, both swift and slow? If you race too fast, you will miss the music. If you stand too still, life will pass you by. Work hard, but rest. Rest not just your body, but your spirit. The world will not stop spinning if you take a moment to breathe. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and you cannot love from an empty heart. Love fiercely, but cherish your solitude. Be alone long enough to know yourself, because what you do not know you cannot offer. Give, yes, give, but do not forget to receive. There is no shame in accepting kindness. The well must be filled before it can overflow. Life is not a straight road, nor is it a single note played endlessly on a piano. It is a melody, a song made up of high notes and low ones, moments of quiet and moments of thunder. If you only live for the high notes, chasing success, chasing money, chasing more, you will soon realize that a song played at full volume without pause becomes noise. If you linger too long in the low notes, drowning in sorrow, in fear, in regret, you may forget that the song still has more to play. Balance is in knowing when to push forward and when to step back, when to rise and when to rest. Think of a dancer. Their grace does not come from constant movement. It comes from knowing when to leap and when to land, when to spin and when to be still. Life is much the same. If you run too fast, you will not hear the music. If you never move at all, you will not feel the rhythm. Balance means allowing yourself to live in all of life's moments, not just the exciting ones or the easy ones. It means embracing the silence between the notes, the pauses that give meaning to the music. Without rest, the beat is exhausting. Without effort, the song never starts. Your life has a rhythm, your own unique rhythm. Do not force yourself into someone else's song. Do not rush through the slow moments, nor cling too tightly to the loud ones. Trust that every note, every beat, every rest is shaping a melody that is yours alone. There is something noble about rising early, staying late, putting in the effort to build a life you are proud of. But let me tell you something, my friend. Work without rest is not strength. It is exhaustion disguised as dedication. You were not made to burn yourself down to keep the world warm. You were not made to run until your legs give out, to push until your spirit breaks. You were made to shine. And a flame that burns too hot, too fast, will flicker out before its time. The world will tell you to hustle, to grind, to push forward, no matter the cost. Success, they say, is for the sleepless. But what is the value of a dream if you are too weary to enjoy it once it comes true? What is the purpose of reaching the mountaintop if you collapse before you see the view? Rest is not laziness. Rest is not weakness. Rest is how you gather strength for the road ahead. Even the earth itself honors balance. The sun does not shine without nightfall. The tides do not rise without retreating. And the seasons shift so that life can breathe, can pause, can renew. Why should you be any different? So work, yes. Work with passion, work with purpose. Give your all to the things that set your soul on fire, but then rest. Rest without guilt. Rest with the same commitment that you give to your work. Close your eyes, take deep breaths, step away, and remember, you are not a machine. You are a human being, and a weary soul cannot carry the weight of the world. If you give yourself permission to rest, you will find that when you return to your work, you will be sharper, stronger, more creative, more alive. Your energy will not be a dwindling candle, but a steady flame, glowing with intention, with purpose, with joy. Because balance is not about choosing between work and rest. It is about learning that one cannot truly exist without the other. Love is one of the greatest gifts life has to offer. It is the thread that connects us, the force that lifts us when we stumble, the warmth that wraps around us when the world grows cold. Love teaches us to give, to nurture, to hold another close and say, "You are not alone." But in the beautiful dance of love, there is another step we must learn: solitude. You see, love is powerful, but it is not meant to be a hiding place from yourself. Too often we seek love to fill an emptiness we do not understand, hoping that someone else can complete the puzzle of who we are. But love is not about completion. It is about sharing the fullness of who you are with another. And how can you share yourself if you do not first take the time to know yourself? Solitude is not loneliness. It is not a punishment or a curse. It is a gift, a sacred space where you learn the sound of your own thoughts, the rhythm of your own heart. It is in solitude that you discover your strength, your dreams, your truth. When you sit with yourself in the quiet, you begin to understand what makes your soul come alive. You learn that your worth is not measured by who loves you, but by how deeply you love yourself. Many fear solitude because it forces them to face themselves, to sit in the silence without distractions. But, my friend, do not fear that silence. Embrace it, for in that quiet you will hear your own voice, and that voice is worth listening to. Now, love with all your heart. Love boldly, love fearlessly. Give love without hesitation, but do not lose yourself in it. Do not shrink to fit inside another's world. Love is strongest when it is shared between two whole souls, not two halves grasping for completion. So stand tall in your solitude. Learn to enjoy your own company. Walk alone sometimes, not because you have to, but because you choose to. Because when you love yourself first, when you know yourself deeply, the love you give to others will not be out of need, but out of abundance. And that, my friend, is the kind of love that lasts. There is something beautiful about giving. To give is to pour out, to share, to touch another's life in a way that leaves the world a little brighter than before. Giving is love in action. It is kindness wrapped in human form. And when you give, whether it is your time, your wisdom, your laughter, or the simple touch of a hand, you are telling the world, "I see you, I care for you." But here's the truth too many people forget. Just as the river must be replenished by the rain, just as the trees must take in sunlight to bear fruit, you too must receive in order to continue giving. Many of us were taught that giving is noble, that generosity is a virtue, and this is true. But somewhere along the way, we were also made to believe that receiving is selfish, that asking for help is weakness, that accepting kindness means we are not strong enough to stand on our own. That is a lie. Giving and receiving are two sides of the same coin. A well that never collects water will eventually run dry. A heart that never receives love will grow weary and hollow. You cannot spend your life pouring into others while refusing to allow yourself to be filled. Why is it that we tell others, "Let me help you," but when the same words are spoken to us, we wave them away? Why do we insist on carrying burdens alone, as if we were meant to walk through life without hands reaching toward us, without arms to catch us when we fall? My dear friend, the same grace you so freely give to others is the grace you must learn to accept for yourself. Receiving is not weakness, it is balance. It is understanding that the love you give to the world is the same love you deserve to feel in return. It is knowing that just as you were placed on this earth to lift others up, there will be moments when you too must be lifted. So give, yes, give without hesitation. Let your kindness flow like a river, nourishing every soul it touches. But when kindness comes back to you, do not turn it away. Open your hands, open your heart, receive without guilt, without shame. Because when we learn to accept love, we allow the circle of giving to continue stronger than before. The world will tell you that to survive, you must be strong. It will teach you to hold your head high, to stand your ground, to show no weakness. It will whisper in your ear that softness is vulnerability, that gentleness is a flaw, that those who bend will surely break. But let me tell you something, my friend. True strength is not found in unyielding stone, but in the willow tree that sways with the wind and does not fall. Strength is not about how hard you can be, how much weight you can carry, how many battles you can fight. Strength is knowing when to push forward and when to step back. Strength is standing tall, but also knowing when to kneel, when to listen, when to surrender to the moment without fear. The world honors warriors, but it forgets that even warriors must rest. Even the strongest hearts need tenderness. Even the fiercest fighters need moments of peace. You see, strength and softness are not opposites. They are partners, two forces working together in balance. A river carves through mountains, not by force, but by persistence. A mother's arms are gentle, but her love is fierce enough to move mountains. The ocean crashes with power, yet cradles the shore with tenderness. Do not be afraid of your own softness. It is not weakness to be kind. It is not weakness to feel deeply. It is not weakness to speak with gentleness when the world expects you to roar. True power is in knowing when to be strong and when to be soft, when to fight and when to let go, when to stand firm and when to yield. And let me tell you something else. People will mistake your softness for fragility. Let them. They will not understand that within your gentle touch is an unshakable spirit. They will not see that your kindness is not submission, but a choice to be light in a world that sometimes feels too dark. Be strong, but do not let that strength turn you to stone. Be soft, but do not let that softness make you small. Carry both within you. Walk through this world with fire in your soul and love in your heart, and you will not only survive, you will thrive. Life is made of contrasts, light and dark, laughter and tears, beginnings and endings. And in no place is this contrast more deeply felt than in the dance between joy and sorrow. Oh, how we long for joy! How we chase it like the sun on a winter's day, stretching out our hands, desperate to hold on to its warmth. And when it comes, we drink it in. Laughter that bubbles up from deep within, moments that make our souls feel weightless, days that feel like golden light spilling over everything. But sorrow comes too. It does not knock. It does not wait for an invitation. It walks in unannounced and settles into the corners of our lives. And when it does, we ask why. We beg it to leave. We tell ourselves that sorrow has no place in our story. But my dear friend, sorrow is not an enemy. It is a teacher. It is the rain that nourishes the roots of who we are. It carves us, shapes us, deepens us, making space for even greater joy when it returns. You see, you cannot have one without the other. Without sorrow, joy would not feel so sweet. Without night, we would not long for the sunrise. Without loss, we would not hold so tightly to love. If life were only happiness, if every day were bright and easy, we would take it for granted. It is the storms that make us appreciate the calm. It is the aching that makes love feel like a miracle. And so, when sorrow comes, do not fight it. Sit with it. Let it teach you. Let it show you the depth of your heart, the strength of your spirit. Let it remind you of the beauty in feeling deeply and caring and being human. But do not let it stay forever. Because joy will return. It always does. It may come softly in small moments, a familiar song, a kind word, the feeling of sunlight on your face. Or it may come rushing in like a tidal wave, filling every part of you with laughter and love. Either way, it will find you, and when it does, do not be afraid to embrace it. Balance is not about avoiding sorrow or clinging desperately to joy. It is about understanding that both have their place, that both are part of the song of life. When sorrow comes, do not despair, and when joy comes, do not fear its passing. Dance with both. Hold them lightly. Trust that just as the seasons change, so too will the rhythm of your heart. Because a full life is not one without sorrow. It is one where joy and sorrow walk together, hand in hand, each making the other more meaningful, more beautiful, more real. My dear friends, life is not about choosing between extremes. It is about learning the art of balance. It is about understanding that strength and softness, work and rest, giving and receiving, love and solitude, joy and sorrow, these are not opposing forces, but partners in the great dance of life. You were not meant to live in constant motion, nor in endless stillness. You were not meant to give without receiving, nor to love others without first loving yourself. You were not meant to chase joy while fearing sorrow, nor to be strong without allowing yourself moments of gentleness. Balance does not mean having a perfect life. It means having a full life. It means knowing when to push forward and when to pause, when to speak and when to listen, when to stand tall and when to kneel. It means giving your best to the world, but never at the cost of losing yourself. So as you walk this path, remember, honor the rhythm of your life. Rest when you need to. Love fiercely, but do not lose yourself in another. Give generously, but allow yourself to receive. Be strong, but do not fear softness. And when sorrow knocks at your door, let it in, but do not let it unpack and stay. because you, my dear friend, were not meant to just survive. You were meant to thrive, to shine, to move through this world with grace, with wisdom, and with a heart that beats in harmony with the beautiful, balanced song of life.
Hello, everyone. Now, don't run from the question. Don't straighten your back too quick or turn your gaze away. Let it sit on your lap for a while. Hold it. Rock it. Bias is not just some ugly word tossed across angry rooms. It is a mirror. And baby, it reflects more than we often care to see. I have walked through rooms with chandeliers and broken bulbs. I have heard sermons from golden mouths and silence from callous hearts. And still, I have known bias. It wears different clothes. It dances in polished shoes and barefoot toes alike. It walks with a limp and sometimes struts like it owns the pavement. You see, I learned that bias isn't just out there, it's in here. It's in the way we clutch our bags when we see a stranger. It's in the way we dismiss voices wrapped in accents. It's in how we choose who gets our smile and who gets our silence. I have caught myself walking in shadows of assumption. Yes, I have. Admitting bias is not weakness, it is the first act of inner courage. That truth may sit uneasy on the tongue, but don't rush to swallow it down. Let it settle. Let it stretch itself across the floor of your heart. We grow up in this world wearing glasses someone else picked out for us. Lenses smeared with fear, preference, memory, and myth. Rival. We don't even realize it. We look through them every day. We think we're seeing truth, but too often we're only seeing what we've been told is true. There comes a moment, quiet or shattering, when the light shifts. Maybe it's a voice that doesn't sound like yours. Maybe it's a face that doesn't fit your familiar picture. Maybe it's a story that undoes everything you thought you knew. In that moment, you have a choice. You can tighten your fists around your comfort, or you can open your palm to the possibility that you've been wrong. And oh, that takes strength. That takes more courage than standing tall in a storm, because now the storm is inside you. It's pulling apart your safe little boxes, asking you to live without them. I stood in that place once, and not just once. I still stand there often. I've looked in the mirror and seen the parts of me that were built by voices that had no love in them. I've seen thoughts flash through my mind that didn't come from my soul, but from a long history of passed down pain. And it shook me. It made me ashamed. But then something deeper rose up, not shame, not guilt, something clearer. Honesty, the kind that does not bend its knees to fear. Because when you say it, when you speak it out loud, yes, I carry bias. You don't crumble. You don't disappear. You begin the hard, holy work of seeing again, of unlearning, of listening, of holding space for others without trying to paint over their truth with your own. That's not weakness, and not the kind that lords over others, but the kind that sets people free, including yourself. There are people who will never admit their bias because they think it makes them guilty, lesser, flawed. But honey, we're all flawed. We're stitched together with cracks and shadows. It's not about pretending the cracks aren't there. It's about letting the light come through them. If you walk around pretending you're above it all, untouched by the mess, then you miss the whole point of growth. You stay stuck in a performance. And performances don't heal anybody. By doesn't mean you are bad. It means you are human. And being human means you still have the power to choose again, to think again, to feel differently the next time. But not if you deny it. Not if you build walls around your blind spots. What you refuse to face will always have control over you. But what you name, what you meet eye to eye, you begin to loosen from your bones. And so, if you're brave enough, take the quiet step today. Don't shout it if you're not ready. Just whisper it to yourself when the room is still. I am biased. Let it be a beginning, not an ending. Let it be the door that swings open, not the chain that binds. Because the real strength is not in being right all your life. It's in being real right now. What you do with your awareness matters more than how long you were blind. There are folks who spend years walking in darkness and never reach for the light. And there are others who catch just a flicker and follow it like their life depends on it. Because it does. It truly does. Awareness is not just a word to toss around like some fashionable scarf. No, it's a weight. It's a turning point, a moment of awakening that whispers, now that you know, what will you do? See, we've all been blind in our own way, blind to the pain in someone else's story, blind to the bias that shaped our choices, blind to the privilege we carried like air, always there, never questioned. And maybe we didn't mean harm. Maybe we were just following the script. But intention and impact are not twins. They walk separately. And when you finally see that, when you finally feel the shift, it matters less how long you were asleep. What matters is how you rise. Awareness is not the end of the road. It's the start of a new one. It's where excuses dry up and action begins. And that can be terrifying. Because now the mirror doesn't lie. Now your silence feels heavier. Now your inaction isn't just quiet, it's complicit. And yes, that truth can sting, but oh, don't turn away from it. Don't rush to bury it under guilt or shame. Let it teach you. Let it push you forward. There are people who wear awareness like a badge, but never let it reach their hands, their feet, their choices. They speak the words, but their hearts stay untouched. That's not transformation, that's performance. And performance may please the crowd, but it doesn't change a single soul. The real work is done in the places no one sees, in the conversations where you sit with discomfort and listen anyway, in the moments when you catch yourself mid-thought and choose a different path. The timeline of your blindness is not your measure. It is not your sentence. What you saw yesterday might have been wrong, but what you choose today can still be right. Ground doesn't care how long you stood on the wrong side of it. It just waits to feel the weight of your steps in a better direction. And those steps, no matter how small, are sacred. I've met people who woke up late in life, who lived decades in a fog, and still managed to change more in 5 years than some do in 50. Why? Because once they saw, they moved. They didn't let fear freeze them. They didn't sit in their newfound understanding and call it enough. They got up, they asked questions, they made room for other voices, they broke patterns and built bridges. They lived like their awareness meant something, so don't let the years you spent not knowing define you. Let what you do with what you now know become your legacy. It's not about shame, it's about responsibility. Not to be perfect, but to be better, to grow, to lean in, to show up. You were blind, perhaps, so was I. But now we see, and now we must walk like it bias grows in silence, but shrinks when spoken out loud. Silence may feel like safety, like shelter from storms of conflict or judgment, but more often than not, it becomes the quiet garden where dangerous seeds take root. Bias doesn't need much water to grow. Just a little nod here, a shrugged shoulder there, a joke left unchallenged, a thought that crosses your mind and gets tucked away, unspoken, untested. That's where it lives. That's where it multiplies. Not always in anger or violence, but in the soft corners of silence where it goes unchecked. I have learned that what we don't name has the power to name us. What we don't confront becomes the silent architect of our actions. You see, bias doesn't need a parade. It doesn't need banners or loud declarations. It thrives best in the hush, in the quiet avoidance of discomfort. We think if we don't say it, if we don't act on it in big ways, then it's not real. But silence is not neutral. It's a choice. And too often it's a protection, not of truth, but of comfort. When you keep bias in the dark, it festers. It takes up residence in your decisions, your relationships, your judgments. It becomes the hand that steers you even when your heart says otherwise. You might think you've buried it deep enough, but it shows. It always shows. In who you believe first, in who you doubt, and who gets your grace and who gets your distance. All those little choices speak louder than words. But here's the thing, when you speak it, when you say it out loud, when you confess it to yourself or to someone else, the spell breaks. Not all at once, but enough to let light in. Naming it is not just about guilt or admission, it's about truth. And truth, when spoken, begins to shift things. It creates space for change, space for humility, space for another way of seeing. I've sat across from people who whispered truths they had never said before. I didn't realize I thought that way. I judged her before she even spoke. I assumed he was dangerous just because of how he looked. And in those moments, I didn't see shame, I saw courage. Because once it's named, once it's out there, it can't hide anymore. Now you have something to work with. Now you can grow. Speaking it doesn't mean shouting it from rooftops or making some grand declaration. It can start small. A quiet acknowledgement in your own mind, a conversation with someone you trust, an honest word in a room where people pretend. That's where the shift begins. Not with perfection, but with presence. Not with denial, but with confession. And no, it's not easy. The tongue trembles when it tries to tell on the heart. But trembling is not weakness. It's a sign that truth is near, that something in you is waking up. And when you wake up, you disturb the silence, and that's the beginning of healing. Not just for you, but for the people your silence once harmed. So speak it. Let it stumble out if it must. Let it crack and fall and sound messy, but say it. Say it and see how bias loses its power, inch by inch, in the sound of your own honesty. That's how change begins, with truth trembling on the tongue. Growth begins when judgment ends and curiosity takes its place. We're so quick to label, to categorize, to decide who someone is before they've even spoken. We size up strangers like it's second nature, because in truth it is. It's what we were taught by our families, by our cultures, by our fears. Judgment is fast. It feels certain. It makes the world small and tidy. But growth is messy. It asks questions instead of giving answers. It listens more than it speaks. It steps back before it steps forward. And that shift from judgment to curiosity is where real transformation begins. You can't grow in a room where every corner is already named. You can't evolve in a space where every person is already labeled. When judgment leads, it shuts the door before the story has a chance to unfold. It turns living, breathing people into ideas, stereotypes, statistics, assumptions. But curiosity opens the window. It lets in the air. It says, maybe I don't know. Maybe there's more. I've walked into rooms carrying judgments I didn't know I had. I've looked at people through filters I never chose but inherited. And I've caught myself mid-thought and asked, where did that come from? Why did I assume that? That's curiosity doing its quiet work. Not loud, not proud, but present. It's the hand that taps you on the shoulder and reminds you, you're still learning. You don't have to know everything right now. When you lead with curiosity, the world gets bigger. You begin to notice things you once ignored, the quiet pain in someone's voice, the pride behind their words, the history in their silence. You ask instead of assume, you invite instead of dismiss, and slowly your understanding deepens, not because someone forced you, but because something inside you softened. It's not always easy. Curiosity takes more time than judgment. It asks for patience, it asks for humility, it asks you to be okay with not having all the answers, with being corrected, with being changed, and sometimes that's uncomfortable. But growth is born in discomfort. It never blooms in the tight grip of certainty. It needs room. It needs wonder. Judgment walks into a room and decides who belongs. Curiosity walks into a room and asks everyone to speak. And when people are invited to speak, to tell their stories in their own words, things begin to shift. Bias loses its footing, walls begin to crack. You start to see people, not just profiles. That is the beginning of justice. That is the heart of compassion, not in the certainty that you're right, but in the courage to ask what you've missed, what you've misunderstood, what you're still learning. And if you can live in that space, not rushing to fix, not desperate to be right, but steady, open, curious, you begin to change the very air around you. Because people can feel when they're being judged, and they can feel when they're being seen. Choose to see, choose to wonder, ask the question before you cast the stone. Because in that moment, you're not just opening your mind, you're opening your heart. And that's where real growth begins. So let judgment rest. Let curiosity rise. That's the better road. You cannot change the world if you refuse to examine your own lens. We all walk through life wearing lenses shaped by everything we've seen, everything we've been taught, everything we've survived. These lenses sit so close to our eyes, we often forget they are even there. We believe we're seeing truth, but truth without reflection can easily become assumption. You cannot offer clarity to others when your own view is blurred by shadows you haven't dared to name. We speak of justice, of equality, of change. We raise our voices and we march. But what good is a loud voice if it echoes through a cracked lens? What good is a cause if the hands that carry it have never questioned their own grip? It is easy to call for the world to shift. It is much harder to sit in stillness and ask, what in me needs to move first? I have had to pause more times than I can count. In the middle of conversation, in the middle of thought, I've had to ask, is this mine or is this something I was handed without ever checking its weight? That takes work. Not the glamorous kind, not the kind that gets applause, but the kind that makes you sweat behind your quiet eye. The kind that strips away what you thought you knew and asks you to begin again. When you examine your lens, you start seeing things that were hidden in plain sight, the assumptions that lived in your compliments, the hesitation that colored your trust, the way you gave certain people the benefit of the doubt and others only suspicion. And when you see it, when you truly see it, you can't unsee it. But don't let that make you turn away. Let it invite you deeper. The world will not shift under the weight of blame. It will not heal because we pointed enough fingers outward. It will shift when enough of us are brave enough to point one inward and say, here, start here. That's not weakness. That's the greatest strength we have, to be honest with ourselves in ways we've avoided for far too long. Changing the world is not just about systems and laws. It's about the subtle decisions made in everyday hearts. It's in the people we choose to believe, the stories we choose to elevate, the lives we choose to understand. And none of that happens clearly unless the lens we use has been held up to the light. That light can be uncomfortable. It reveals the fingerprints of bias, the smudges of assumption, the scratches of fear. But once you see them, you have the power to clean them. To polish your sight until compassion becomes clearer than control, until listening becomes more natural than defending, until change doesn't feel like surrender, but a sacred offering. It's humbling work. You might feel small in the face of all you didn't know, but stay there a while. Let humility do what pride never could. Build something honest, something real, something the world can actually grow from. Because if you keep calling for a better world but refuse to see through a better lens, you'll only keep recreating the very thing you claim to want to change. So examine your lens. Clean it with truth. Wipe it with grace. Look again and look deeper, because that's where the real work begins, not with others, but with you. And when your sight clears, so will your impact. Every step toward fairness begins with a question, not a defense. That truth doesn't shout. It waits, calm and quiet, like a door left slightly ajar, waiting for you to walk through. We live in a world that trains us to defend, to explain, to justify the walls we've built. The moment someone points to a crack in our foundation, we rush to patch it up with pride, with words like, that's not what I meant, or, but I have good intentions. We shield ourselves with reasons instead of reaching for reflection. But fairness isn't born from being right. It's born from asking, what have I missed? That question, that simple, trembling question, is the beginning of every bridge ever built. Because when you stop defending, you start discovering. And when you start discovering, you begin to see that fairness isn't some grand prize handed down from the sky. It's a daily practice, a discipline of listening before reacting, of opening instead of closing. I have sat in rooms where silence held more honesty than all the loud opinions in the world. I've watched eyes shift when someone dared to ask instead of argue. Can you help me understand it? What was that like for you? Where did I get it wrong? These are not weak words. These are sacred tools. They are the hands that dig out the roots of bias, the seeds of unfairness, the habits of power that go unnoticed by the ones holding it. And yes, that kind of questioning feels vulnerable. It exposes you. It leaves your ego unguarded. But in that soft, bare space, something beautiful can grow. Fairness begins to rise. Not perfection, not instant clarity, but fairness. The willingness to level the ground beneath your feet, to acknowledge the slope you hadn't noticed before. We were taught to be certain, not curious, taught to speak up, but not always to look in. But let me tell you, fairness lives in the pause between your reaction and your understanding. It lives in the breath you take before you respond, in the silence that follows when you realize someone else's story disrupts your own. And it's in that disruption that change becomes possible when someone says they've been hurt. Fairness doesn't ask, are you sure? Fairness asks how. When someone says they've been ignored or misjudged or pushed aside, fairness doesn't rush to defend your view. It asks, what does your view look like? That is the sacred shift from guarding your place to making space. The world does not need more people who can argue their point. It needs more people who can hold a question without fear. A question leaves room for answers you didn't expect. It lets people breathe their truth without interruption, and in that breath, something begins to turn. You begin to understand that fairness isn't just about being kind, it's about being willing to be changed. So ask even when it shakes your voice. Ask even when the answer might unsettle you. Ask not to prove, but to learn. Because the moment you choose curiosity over defense, you take one step closer to a world that sees, hears, and honors everyone. And that one step, honest and humble, can shift more than you know. The journey from bias to balance is not a straight road. It is a spiral of return and relearning. It is tempting to believe that awareness alone is enough, that once you've seen your own bias, once you've named it and spoken it, that the work is done. But the truth is, the work is never finished. Bias does not vanish like a shadow at noon. It lingers. It returns in new forms, under new names, dressed in different justifications. The path to balance is not walked once. It is walked again and again with more honesty, more humility, and more heart each time. There will be days when you feel sure, when your sight feels clear and your steps feel firm, but there will also be days when old thoughts sneak back in like whispers, uninvited but familiar. You will catch yourself making assumptions you thought you had unlearned. You will feel the weight of judgment press against your better knowing. That is not failure. That is a spiral. That is the human heart trying to heal in a world that still teaches us to fear what we do not understand. Growth does not move in a straight line. It loops, it dips, it returns. But each return is not the same. You come back with more questions. You come back with deeper understanding. You come back having heard more stories, felt more tension, dared to ask more from yourself. And each time the spiral brings you closer to a center that feels less like certainty and more like compassion. Balance is not perfection. It is presence. It is the ability to hold conflicting truths without needing one to disappear. It is seeing yourself clearly without shrinking in shame or puffing up in pride. It is the grace to say I was wrong and the strength to ask, what can I do better? It is the wisdom to know that even with good intentions, you can still cause harm, and the courage to repair it without needing applause. We live in a world that rewards speed, that praises certainty, that treats reflection like delay. But real change, the kind that roots itself deep and wide, takes time. It takes patience. It takes repetition. It takes the willingness to circle back again and again to the places where you were once blind and see them with new eyes. I have walked this spiral. I still do. There are days when I feel I've made progress, and then something reminds me that I'm still learning, an interaction, a memory, a moment when my words fell short. But I have learned not to turn away. I have learned to lean in, to let the discomfort teach me, to let the mistake become a doorway. That is how the spiral works, not to shame you, but to shape you. So when you find yourself returning to the same questions, do not think you failed. Think of it as an invitation, a second, third, or 10th chance to respond with more grace than you did the time before. Because every return is a chance to do it better. And the spiral, though it curves, though it repeats, always moves upward when you walk it with intention. The road from bias to balance is not one you complete. It is one you commit to. With each return, each relearning, you become a little more whole, a little more human, a little more ready to help build a world where fairness isn't a finish line, it's a way of walking. And that walk, however winding, is still worth every step. So now you know the journey isn't about pointing fingers out there. It's about turning the mirror inward and asking the hard, holy questions. It's about naming what was hidden, listening where you once spoke over, choosing curiosity over judgment, and walking that spiral path of return with grace. We are not here to be perfect, but present, not to pretend we have arrived, but to stay awake on the road. Every time you dare to see differently, every time you choose to ask instead of assume, you become a little more free and you help free the world alongside you. Keep walking, keep questioning, keep showing up, not just for others, but for the parts of yourself still waiting to be known. That's how change lives, not in a shout, but in the quiet, daily choice to do better. Thank you for your open heart. Good luck on this journey. The world needs what only you can bring. Just make sure you bring your whole, honest self. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, my dear hearts, let me ask you something. Have you ever walked towards something, arms wide open, only to find it wasn't there when you arrived? Have you ever stood at the edge of hope, expecting the world to meet you halfway, only to feel the sharp, cold wind of disappointment push you back? Oh, I know you have. We've all been there. Dreaming up grand castles in our minds, placing people in roles they never auditioned for, believing that life should unfold just the way we mapped it out. And when it doesn't, when the love you gave isn't returned, when the promotion doesn't come, when the friendship you cherished fades like a morning mist, you feel a hurt so deep it makes your bones heavy. But listen to me now. The problem isn't always life. The problem isn't always them. Sometimes the problem is the weight of expectations we place on fragile things. We wrap our happiness around outcomes, tie our joy to people, and then we wonder why we feel empty when those things shift like sand beneath our feet. My dear hearts, let me tell you something about happiness. It is not a prize waiting at the finish line of your expectations. It is not locked behind doors that only open when life says yes to your plans. Happiness is not a stubborn child that refuses to come unless you get what you want. No, it is softer than that, wilder than that, freer than that. But the moment you tie it to an expectation, the moment you make it dependent on things you cannot control, it begins to shrink. You know this feeling, don't you? That tightness in your chest when things don't go your way. The sting of disappointment when someone doesn't show up how you wanted them to. The quiet sorrow of believing you would be somewhere different by now. Living a life that looked the way you pictured it years ago. You were certain you would be happy when you got the job, when the love was returned, when the world clapped for you in the way you imagined, but when came and went. When life handed you something different, happiness did not arrive the way you thought it would. That is the danger of expectations. They place conditions on your joy. They whisper, I will be happy if this happens. They convince you that peace is a destination rather than something you can carry with you right here, right now. And when things do not unfold as expected, happiness feels stolen from you, as if life has taken something it owed you. But child, life does not owe you a script. It does not promise to meet you exactly where you stand, arms crossed, waiting for things to be just so. It is far too unpredictable, too vast, too complex to shape itself around your demands. And yet, too often, we demand it anyway. We paint pictures in our minds of how love should look, how success should feel, how people should behave, and we grow bitter when reality does not match the image. We grip these expectations so tightly that we forget to leave room for the beauty of surprise, the gift of the unknown, the joy that comes in ways we never planned for. But listen now, joy is not in the expectation, it is in the experience. It is in the ability to receive life as it comes, not just as you wanted it. It is in loving people for who they are, not who you imagined they would be. It is in finding gratitude in what is given, even if it does not look like what you asked for. The moment you free happiness from the prison of expectations, it will expand. It will find you in the most unexpected places, in the quiet moments, in the laughter that catches you off guard, in the simple knowing that you are alive, still learning, still growing. So loosen your grip. Let happiness breathe. Trust that life in all its twists and turns is still working in your favor, even when it does not follow the map you drew. And if you can do that, if you can welcome each day with an open heart rather than a list of demands, you will find that happiness is not something you must chase. It is something that will meet you right where you stand. My dear hearts, let me ask you something. Have you ever placed someone on a pedestal so high they could not help but fall? Have you ever handed someone a script they never agreed to read, expecting them to say the words just as you wrote them? Have you ever poured love, time, kindness into another soul, believing deep in your heart they would give it back to you in the way you imagined? And then, when they didn't, when they couldn't, you felt betrayed, wounded, hollow? Oh, I know you have. We all have, because we are human. And humans long for connection, for love, for the simple reassurance that we matter to someone else. But the trouble begins when we make people responsible for fulfilling the expectations we placed on them without their knowing. When we assign them roles they never auditioned for. When we expect them to meet needs they never promised to fulfill, we set ourselves up for disappointment. People are not here to be what you imagine. They are here to be who they are. And sometimes that means they will love you differently than you expected. Sometimes that means they will show up in a way you do not recognize. And sometimes, and this is the hardest part, that means they will not show up at all. Not because they don't care, not because you were not worthy, but because they are living out their own story, carrying their own burdens, fighting battles you may never see. But you must hear me when I say this. Just because someone does not meet your expectations does not mean they have failed you. It does not mean they are unkind, unworthy, or undeserving of grace. It simply means they are human, just as you are. And when you free people from the weight of who you thought they should be, you allow yourself to see them for who they truly are. You stop measuring their love by how closely it aligns with your desires and start appreciating it for what it is, in whatever way it is given. Love, when tied to expectations, becomes a transaction. But love, when freed from demands, becomes a gift that does not require repayment, does not keep score, does not withhold itself when things do not go as planned. So, my dear, love people for who they are, not who you wish they would be. Accept kindness in the form it is given, not just in the form you expected. And if someone cannot love you the way you hope, let them go with grace. Because the moment you release your grip on how people should be, you open your heart to the beauty of who they are. And that, my dear, is where peace begins. My dear hearts, let me tell you something about disappointment. It is not the enemy. It is not a sign that you were foolish to hope, nor is it proof that life has conspired against you. Disappointment is the echo of expectation meeting reality, the sound of a dream brushing against the rough edges of the world. It is not here to break you. It is here to remind you that you tried. You see, we are taught to believe that if we hope, if we love, if we pour ourselves into something, we should be met with an outcome that mirrors our effort. But life does not always work in such neat, predictable ways. Sometimes you give your all and still the door remains closed. Sometimes you love deeply and still the other person walks away. Sometimes you put your heart into a dream and still it crumbles before your eyes. And when that happens, disappointment wraps itself around you like a heavy cloak, whispering that maybe you should have never hoped at all. But listen to me now, disappointment does not mean you were wrong to dream. It does not mean you were foolish to love. It does not mean you should close your heart, lower your expectations, or stop believing in something greater. No, disappointment is simply evidence that you dared, that you stepped into the unknown with hope in your hands, that you opened yourself to the possibility of joy. And if you can open yourself to joy, then yes, you must also be willing to meet sorrow, to meet setbacks, to meet moments that do not unfold as you wished. But does that mean you should stop trying, should stop loving, should stop dreaming? Oh no, my dear, that is not the way. You see, disappointment is not an end, it is a crossroads. It is a place where you must decide, will you let this moment define you, or will you let it refine you? Will you shrink into bitterness, or will you rise into wisdom? Will you close your heart in fear, or will you keep it open, knowing that every time you hope, you are still alive, still learning, still growing? A life without disappointment is a life without risks, without depth, without the richness of feeling. But a life that welcomes disappointment as a teacher, now that, my dear, is a life that is full of courage, full of love, full of the kind of strength that only comes from those who have walked through the fire and come out shining. So do not be afraid of disappointment. Let it visit, but do not let it stay. Let it remind you that you are human, that you are brave, that you are someone who still believes in the beauty of what could be. And that, my dear, is a beautiful thing. My dear hearts, let me tell you something about control. We spend so much of our lives trying to hold on to things that were never ours to control in the first place. We map out our plans, place expectations on people, and tell ourselves that if we do everything just right, life will unfold exactly the way we want it to. But life has never bowed to our demands. It moves in its own rhythm, shifts in ways we cannot predict, and reminds us again and again that we are not the masters of the universe. You can control your effort, the way you show up, the work you put in, the kindness you extend. You can control your attitude, the way you see the world, the gratitude you cultivate, the way you choose to respond when things don't go as planned. You can control your response, how you carry yourself in the face of disappointment, how you handle rejection, how you decide to move forward when life pushes you back. But everything else, the outcome, the timing, the way others choose to love you or not love you, that is beyond your grasp. And yet we fight it, don't we? We grip expectations so tightly that our own hands begin to ache. We tell ourselves that if we try just a little harder, we can make someone stay, we can force a situation to change, we can control how the story ends. But my dear, that is not the way life works. People will make their own choices, circumstances will unfold as they will, and no amount of worrying or wishing will bend the world to your will. But here's the good news. You do not need to control everything to be at peace. Peace comes not from demanding certainty, but from learning to trust yourself enough to handle the uncertain. It comes from knowing that no matter what happens, you have the strength, the wisdom, and the resilience to face it. So let go of what is not yours to control. Pour your energy into what is, your effort, your attitude, your response. Show up, give your best, love deeply, and then, and this is the hardest part, release the rest. Because the moment you stop trying to control everything is the moment you start to truly live. My dear hearts, listen to me now. So much of our suffering does not come from life itself, but from the war we wage between what is and what we thought should be. We stand in the present looking around at our lives, and instead of seeing what is before us, we mourn the picture in our minds. The one we crafted so carefully, the one we held onto so tightly, the one that never came to be. We tell ourselves, I should be happier by now. I should be further along. That love should have lasted. That door should have opened. And with every should, we build a wall between ourselves and peace. Because peace, my dear, is never found in the past that did not happen, nor in the future we have yet to grasp. Peace is here right now in the acceptance of what is. But oh, I know it is hard. It is hard to let go of the way you thought things would be. It is hard to release the dreams you once carried so close to your heart. It is hard to stand in the middle of a reality you did not expect and say, this is still my life. This is still worthy of love. This is still enough. But let me tell you something, nothing has ever stolen more joy, more love, more life than the belief that happiness can only exist in a life different from the one you have now. You see, expectation is a tricky thing. It convinces you that there is only one way for things to turn out right. It tricks you into believing that if life does not match the picture in your mind, then something has gone wrong. But life is not a painting with lines to color inside. It is a river, flowing, moving, changing. And if you spend all your time standing on the shore demanding it flow a certain way, you will never learn how to swim. So let go. Let go of the should be and open your eyes to the what is, because right here in this moment, there is still beauty, there is still laughter to be shared, love to be given, lessons to be learned. There is still a story unfolding, and it is still yours. And when you release the grip of expectations, you will find that life, even in its unpredictability, still has so much to offer. So breathe, my dear, right here, right now, because this is where peace begins. My dear hearts, listen closely. There is something I need you to understand, something that will set you free if you let it. Expectations build cages. They keep you locked inside a world of should be and supposed to, measuring every moment, every person, every part of your life against an image you created in your mind. And when reality does not match that image, you feel trapped. Trapped in disappointment, trapped in frustration, trapped in a longing for something that may never be. But my dear, what if I told you that the door to that cage has been opened all along? What if I told you that the only thing keeping you locked inside is the belief that life must go a certain way for you to be happy? Because here is the truth. Acceptance builds wings. It does not ask, why is this happening to me? It does not cry out, this isn't fair, this isn't what I planned. No, acceptance takes a deep breath, stands tall, and says, this is where I am. This is what is real, and I will find a way to rise from here. Oh, I know it isn't easy. I know how tempting it is to hold on, to resist, to fight against reality with all your might. We are taught to believe that if we let go, if we surrender, it means we are giving up. But acceptance is not giving up. It is getting up. It is choosing to no longer be weighed down by the burden of unmet expectations. It is choosing to see life not as a disappointment, but as an unfolding journey, one that is still full of possibilities. You see, expectations make you believe that only one version of happiness exists. They tell you that if love does not look the way you imagine, it is not real. They tell you that if success does not come in the form you planned, you have failed. They tell you that if life does not follow your script, something has gone wrong. But oh, my dear, life is not a script. It is not meant to be controlled, predicted, or forced into a mold. It is wild, it is unexpected, and sometimes it gives you something far more beautiful than you ever could have planned, if only you have the courage to receive it. So open your hands, let go of the cage, spread your wings, accept what is, and I promise you, you will find yourself lighter, freer, soaring higher than you ever thought possible, because the moment you stop demanding that life meet your expectations, you give it the chance to exceed them. And oh, my dear, what a beautiful thing that is. My dear hearts, listen to me now. So many of us have been taught to believe that happiness lives in the perfect outcome, that joy is something we can only grasp when life arranges itself just right. We tell ourselves that when we reach a certain milestone, when we find the right person, when the world finally bends to our desires, then we will be at peace. But oh, how often have we arrived at those moments, only to find that happiness is still just out of reach, moving further down the road, waiting behind yet another if only. That is because joy does not live in perfection. It does not wait at some distant finish line, reserved only for those who get everything right. No, my dear, joy lives in your ability to dance through the unknown. It lives in the way you embrace what comes, not just what you expected. It lives in your willingness to laugh even when the path is uncertain, to love even when you do not know where it will lead, to trust that life in all its twists and turns is still worth showing up for with an open heart. But I know how hard it is. I know what it feels like to long for certainty, to crave control, to wish for a guarantee that everything will turn out the way you planned. I know what it means to hesitate, to stand still because you fear what might happen if you take the wrong step. But let me tell you something, there is no wrong step. There is only movement, only learning, only the unfolding of a story that was never meant to be predictable. You see, expectation tells you that you must have all the answers before you begin. It convinces you that unless you know exactly where you are going, you are better off staying put. But joy does not live in certainty. It does not wait for you to have everything figured out. It meets you in the journey. It meets you in the risks you take, in the moments you let go, in the laughter that comes when you realize that not knowing is part of the adventure. So stop waiting. Stop telling yourself that you must have everything in place before you can be happy. Stop believing that peace will only come when life looks the way you expected it to. Instead, open yourself to the beauty of what is happening right now. Because joy is not something you find, it is something you allow. It is something you invite in when you decide to dance, even when you do not know the steps. So dance, my dear. Dance through the unknown, through the imperfect, through the unexpected, and trust, oh trust, that joy will meet you there. My dear hearts, if there is one thing I hope you carry with you, it is this: life is not meant to be lived in the shadows of unmet expectations. It is not meant to be measured against the picture in your mind, nor burdened by the weight of what should have been. Life is happening now, in all its unpredictability, in all its beauty, in all its raw, unpolished wonder. And your peace, your joy, your freedom will not come from controlling it. It will come from embracing it. Let go of the scripts you have written for others. Release the grip of control and trust that even when things do not go as planned, life is still working in your favor. Love people for who they are, not who you expected them to be. Accept what is instead of mourning what is not. Choose to dance through the unknown rather than waiting for certainty. And most of all, believe. Believe that no matter where you are, no matter what has happened, joy is still within your reach. You are stronger than your disappointments. You are greater than your fears, and you are worthy of a life that is not dictated by expectations, but shaped by your courage to embrace the present. So step forward, open your heart, and walk boldly into the life that is waiting for you. Good luck on your journey, and thank you for sharing this moment with me. May you find peace in the unexpected, love in the unplanned, and joy in the beauty of what is.